This is genuinely going to be the first game of the Rosinho era where I was completely baffled by Chelsea's performance. This is the first time I will be criticizing Rosinho's and Chelsea's performance in a game. The annoying thing is that Chelsea started this game really, really well. After the first 10 minutes of the game, I felt that Chelsea was going to win this game. I thought a Chelsea goal was coming because the spaces that Chelsea usually likes to find, especially where they like to find Kopama and Enzo Fernandez, it was working quite well. They were finding those spaces. Let me show you just two examples. Of course, we're familiar with this Chelsea's four-man build-up by now. And then Newcastle responded to that by playing in a rather conservative 4-4-2 mid-block. Now, what they wanted to do, of course, you know that Chelsea will have Kopama just drop behind the line between the opponent's defense and midfield line and then try to pick up the ball from there and turn. What Newcastle tried to do initially was to have Votamade and Jacob Ramsey just pick him up behind the line. Now, both of them were not really doing a very good job picking him up. They were supposed to pass him off to each other. But because of Reece James stepping out with the ball many times, Votamade's attention is usually drawn to Reece James. And then Joe Willock gets dragged out of position a little bit, such that he leaves that small gap for Kopama to be able to receive the ball between the line. This is one of those occasions where Votamade is supposed to be picking up Kopama. But the problem is, once Reece James steps up with the ball, his attention gets taken to Reece James. And then in that split second, Kopama is left in a lot of space. And Reece James could find him, and Kopama could turn immediately, and Chelsea at least had a gap to get behind that Newcastle defense. They didn't score on this occasion, but look at another example. Now, as usual, it's that usual Chelsea build-up. What you can see here now is that Enzo Fernandez is gradually peeling away and drawing Joe Willock out of that position with him, leaving Palmer free. Votamede was keeping an eye on Palmer before, but as soon as Reece James steps out with the ball, again, like in the previous clip, he steps out to mark Reece James, to cover Reece James. And once again, for the second time in this game, once his attention is drawn away from Palmer, Palmer is in a lot of space behind that Newcastle midfield line. And then Reece James, again, perfectly finds him with that ball. Once Palmer holds the ball and turns, Chelsea are on the attack again. They could get behind that Newcastle defensive line again. And then Kopama probably should have done better with that, but you get the point. This happened a lot of times in this game with Reece James being able to find Palmer between the line, Palmer holding the ball and turn. This is how Rosinho likes to approach games, through the middle, whether through Palmer or through Enzo Fernandez. Looking at this in the first few minutes of the game, I just felt that with that gap continuously opening for Chelsea, it's not going to be long before Chelsea scores a goal. Chelsea were in complete control of that game. So how did Chelsea end up conceding one of the most useless goals they've conceded this season? Being split wide open in defense. I think for us to understand that, we first need to understand how Chelsea likes to defend and how Chelsea likes to play off the ball. Then we can then understand the failures that happened that led to this goal. Let me show you an example of Chelsea's normal pressing and defending. Now, this is Newcastle trying to build up from the back. What I want you to keep an eye on is this. First is João Pedro, just keeping Botman in his cover shadow and then going to press the goalkeeper. He's not pressing the goalkeeper from the front. He's not pressing him directly. Then if you look this way again, Garnacho has Livramento in his cover shadow. At the same time, he's keeping an eye on the other Newcastle centre back, ready to press whichever way the ball goes. Now, what happens is, seeing that everybody is covered now, Joe Willock has dropped in from midfield to come and create an extra man at the back. He's just at the edge of your screen here, running in to create an option. But as soon as the ball is getting played to him, notice that Caicedo from behind him is running to close him down already. He's not going to have time or space to control the ball, turn and run at Chelsea's defense. Now, Willock is forced to take the ball back. And then Garnacho eventually makes a decision and goes to press him. But as he's pressing him now, it means that Livramento is now free here. But look at Cucurella from the back is coming up to press him again to make sure that he does not receive the ball, have the time and space to control the ball, turn and face the Chelsea goal. And then, of course, Newcastle drops another man deep again to try to create an overload to get the ball out. But what you discover is that Chalobah has come from defense to cover him as well, to make sure that he cannot receive the ball, turn, and face that Chelsea goal. This is how Chelsea usually puts pressure. Newcastle are then forced to kick the ball long. Now, one thing I want you to look at again when this ball goes long is this. If you look at the back line, Chelsea are not in a defensive shape. They're not in a defensive block. It's just a man-oriented press. Everybody picks up somebody. They are not in any shape at the back. It's not a 4-4-2 or a 4-3-3 or a 4. It's not a defensive shape. It's just 1v1 pressing. The key principle is this. Nobody is allowed to receive the ball without being under pressure immediately. Nobody is allowed to control the ball, turn, and face the Chelsea goal. But now, look at the goal that Chelsea conceded and look at the failure of this particular system. Because this system requires everybody to be switched on. Know your man, follow your man, make sure that the player receives the ball under pressure and cannot do anything with the ball. Once there is a break in that press, it becomes a problem. Let me show you. This is the build up to that goal. Garnacho is seeing Ramsey dropping up to receive the ball. Ramsey is not his man. That is why he is pointing his hand to say somebody should pick up Ramsey. In the previous clip we watched, it was Caicedo who stepped out to keep an eye on Ramsey. But here, Garnacho is left to deal with the two of them by himself. This is his man, just at the edge of the screen. You can't see him yet. But he has a player to mark there, so he's not going to step out. Now, because there is somebody in the middle, Garnacho had to step towards him just to make sure the ball doesn't go directly to him and then leave his own man out wide, free. But once the ball eventually goes out wide, he then has to pick his man now to go up to him. And then, as usual, what we've seen in the previous clip, Cucurella steps out from defense to make sure that he also pins his man to make sure he doesn't receive the ball and have the space to turn. But you still had Ramsey free in the middle that nobody is picking him up. What that means is that Joe Willock is able to receive the ball in acres of space, turn with it, and nobody covering him at all. And then he's not able to run straight at that Chelsea's back line, something that wasn't happening previously. Now, at this point, personally, I think that Caicedo should have stepped up to go and cover him, to go and halt that run. Because if I take it further a little bit, you can see that Fofana already is stepping out to meet Anthony Gordon already to make sure that he pins Gordon. So Caicedo here doesn't have a man to mark. He's not pinning anybody down. He should be stepping up to cover this gap just in front of Willock. But he doesn't. At least cut off this passing lane. He doesn't do it. And I think this is where Chelsea's press actually failed totally. And of course, at that point, once Willock was able to find a perfect pass here, it was just a matter of time, and then Chelsea considered that goal. And that was it. Once Newcastle had that goal, they now had something to play for. So they essentially just went into a low block from that moment on. And that low block disrupted that space that Chelsea had with Kopama between the lines previously. Let me show you a clip to explain what I'm talking about. Now, this is Newcastle basically now sitting in a low block when Chelsea tries to build. The low block now means that there is no gap between the midfield and the defensive line anymore. It's almost as if they are standing on the same line with each other. There is no gap for Kopama to actually stay behind. And the bad part of it is that when you have a block like this, it means that even the defender, the centre back and the midfielder can step up to cover Kopama. So that space was essentially gone for Chelsea. Chelsea started trying to go through the wings to use Gusto on one hand or to use Garnacho on the other side. But again, when Chelsea goes to the wing, they can easily double up on Gusto here. It becomes this revolving of pass, take the ball to the other side, from side to side. Chelsea goes to the other side again. It's the same thing. They can double up on Garnacho on the other side. So essentially, the wing was locked for Chelsea. The center, where they usually like to progress from, where you had Kopama and Enzo Fernandez between the lines, became blocked as well. Rosinho did try to adapt in the second half when he took off Gusto and then brought in Liam Delap. He almost was trying to go into a 4-4-2 or a 4-2-3-1, but this time he wanted to play 3 players in that behind the line. I don't think it worked well either because Newcastle defended solidly in this game. And from then on, Chelsea just looked completely out of ideas. It didn't look like they were actually going to score a goal in that game again. It's a disappointing performance, but it did not shock me. I already said it before that Chelsea qualifying for the Champions League next season is very, very unlikely. Very unlikely, given the fact that they're still going to play Manchester United, they're still going to play Man City. Those are not games that I think Chelsea will get 3 points from. But then again, it's football. If you enjoy tactical analysis like this is what I do on this channel. Hit the like button, hit the follow button, hit the subscribe button. Hope to see you again.